Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Kerbal Space Program episode. That was a weird introduction. Don't ask where it came from. I couldn't tell you. It was hiding under the rug somewhere. Anyway, we're back to this old bird here. And this episode was many failed episodes in the making. I have been just desperately trying to find a way to create a craft that can go to... that I can send up and just attach to the side of my vehicle or my space station and get ready to go, and it's not working for me. Things are foobarring left and right. I tried installing the damned robotics, and it's just not functioning. It doesn't work right. Somebody said use the CleverBobCat thing, part, whatever, plug-in to get it to work, and it kind of sort of works, but it breaks in some rather interesting ways. So yeah, that's not gonna work. So we're gonna take this guy and we're gonna disassemble him a little bit here. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of fancy shenanigans to get this to work the way I want it. But we're gonna try to add an inline clampotron facing downwards to this guy. So obviously that means I need to take this and whoa. Now get our symmetry correct here. And remove the symmetry again. Put this thing up here. Same thing with you. Although I'm probably going to have to move you forward and stick you on the RCS here. Okay, that's centered. And in that case, I'm going to put you forward on the RCS too. Alright, and now we'll just yank this off completely and stick this on here like so. Now, how did that bugger up my center of mass and my center of lift and my center of thrust? Okay, so that's fine. The center of thrust, I don't need to worry about the center of thrust. I'm actually gonna yank you off because I have to get rid of you. I'll explain what I'm doing with that later. But that is kind of unacceptable with the center of lift here. So how far forward can I actually drag that? You know what? Let's actually just line up the RCS here. Dual symmetry. Clearly. Gotta have the symmetry. Gotta have the symmetry. Whoa! Son of a monkey. Okay, there we go. So that's fairly close. I think I can actually just move the RCSs until they're lined. Okay, there we go. That's what we wanted to see. Now, whoa, quit being all spazzy now. Alright, so we're gonna drag this to about here-ish. I'd like to know why it's kind of facing at a forward angle, but I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. You know what? Whatever. I don't care. We're gonna grab these guys, and why have you decided to move? I want you to be down here still. Are you even facing straight forward anymore? It's difficult to tell with the Skiddly-Wonka's camera. I don't think you are facing straight forward. Crap. That is not a good thing. So... Why are you so spazzy? Oh my word, where's the wheels? Right, this thing. Please face forward. Oh, for the love of crab nuggets, please face forward. I can't tell what's going on. I want you to face forward so that this craft can actually fly straight. Is that so much to ask? Apparently. Alright, well that looks like that's about as good as I'm gonna get it. Buggery. Okay, so we removed the main engine here that was sitting in the middle. But that's kind of a good thing. We actually want to go with, where's the fuel here? We need to have this center stack so that we can attach rockets and big old fuel stages and shit like that to it. That's going to actually get it up into space, yeah? So we're going to put some small FDL 280 fuel tanks here on the bottom, like so, and then I'm going to attach basic jet engines, which are going to be weird. I've got to yank these off to attach the jet engines. That's fine. We'll get some fresh ones of you because I think you're at a funny angle. And then we will use the, where are they? Where are they? Are they in? They're in aerodynamic, aren't they? Small ram air intakes, just what I wanted. I had a feeling you weren't going to cooperate. I need to like stick you up here. Then I need to attach this. And then I need to drag you down here. It's funny how that puts that right in the center of the wing. We kind of actually want it to go underneath the wing though, because they just work better that way. So we'll do that. Now the question is, can I put two of them? I think I can. I can. I'll be danged. Okay, well I wasn't actually expecting that to work, but you know what? I'm not complaining. That's a good thing. Alright, so now we need to, of course, get some fuel lines out like so, and then more fuel lines from that to that. So there we go. Okay, and now how are we doing? The center of lift has moved significantly farther forward. That's not a desirable thing here. So I'm gonna grab this whole section here. I'm gonna drag it back. I'm gonna drag it back. Holy crap. I really dragged it back and it's not cooperating. It's not wanting to go where I want it to go. That's not a good thing. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. Alright, fine. We'll line you up about like so. We've still got the RCS ports on the bottom. We'll drag you back a little bit here. Try to get you nice and lined up with the wings, RCS with the wingtip RCS ports. Oh, got the symmetry on there. We go. And then of course that means I need to drag you back a little bit too. Aerodynamic standard control surfaces installed here. Two of them, of course, and boom. Okay, now it's going to be an absolute miracle if this thing is even capable of flying. I'm thinking I'm gonna add some more wheels here, since I think I can get away with this. I hope I can get away with that, otherwise this is going to be really awkward. Well, let's save it. How's that center of lift? It's still a little bit far forward for what I would like. I would like to see it a little bit farther back. But we will save it, we will launch it, and we will most certainly find out if it is capable of lift or not. Let's see if we can take it off. Yeah. And there's still crap hiding out over there. It's, you know, just gonna be weird. It's just gonna be weird. Just accept it. Now, are those touching the ground? I think they are actually touching the ground. Huh. Okay. So how are we on resources here? We got oxidizer. The oxidizer is no longer doing weird things, by the way. I don't know what fixed that. Anyway, let's kick these things on. See how we're doing. We're not losing any oxidizer. Let's see, W is up. Okay, that's good. We're still not. Whoa, Nelly. Okay, get off the ground. Get off the ground, please. Whoa, Nelly. Okay, so it flies with very little power. But clearly these wheels are going to give me problems. So we're at like, what, half thrust here, and we're just rocking like crazy. 100 meters a second. I mean, we took off at practically nothing. I don't know what I did to cause that. But can't really complain, I suppose. Although I get the feeling that landing is going to be a bit weird. I'll just drag it around real good here. Let's not smack into the surface. Okay, less thrust, less thrust. Let's go down. Let's bring it down into the planet. Let's get down. Oops. I've got lights on this thing. Whoa, I'm a lot closer than I thought I was. Yeah, okay, saw that coming. Spaceplane hangar. Alright. You two need to go away. I think you're the primary reason that I was just wobbling all over the place with that. Save and launch. Let's try this again, because it does kind of need to be able to actually, you know, land. That's kind of the whole point behind this craft, is it being able to land, not just take off under strange and possibly implausible conditions. Alright, so let's try this again. If it needs to go down the runway straight, even at high speeds. Right? I need to be able to get to takeoff speed before it starts wobbling in uncontrollably. Which should be right about there. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, so that was completely acceptable. We'll kill the throttle a little bit here, because we really don't need to be going as fast as it will let us. It'll try to get us to go here. But let's drag our current direction of travel. Oh, better undo that roll a little bit. We do need at least a little bit of upward thrust, so we don't wind up smacking into the planet at full bore. Turn on those landing lights so I can see where I am. Come on. We're almost to the angle we want to be at. Here we go. Alright. Nice and level. Nice and level. Alright, kill off more throttle, because we've really got a lot more than we need here. Whoa. Okay. Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Brakes, 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 brakes. Whew. Okay, so it appears to be a little bit lopsided. It wants to go to the right for some reason. I'm not sure what's up with that. But, you know, I can deal with it. As you can see, I was capable of landing it. It did try to wobble a little bit on a couple of occasions, but it worked. It worked pretty well. I'm happy with that. I'm actually quite happy with that. So now the biggest thing we're going to have is actually getting it into be docked. So I believe it's toggle. Yeah, there it is. So that popped out the docking port there. We're going to have to actually get this thing docked. We're going to have to actually dock two of these things here. Alright, so let's just toggle that back in there. And we're going to leave this guy right where he is, because I don't feel like knocking him out. He flew good, he landed good, and it was all just wonderful and pretty. I'm going to have to do a little finagling here. I don't know how much time we have left, so let me go transfer this over with the save files, and then maybe we'll see if we have enough time to try to build a spacecraft. Alrighty, it's only been 15 minutes. I'm sure we can do a little bit more work here. So load autosaved ship was the one that I used to actually get it in here, so it should pop up nice and neat there. Awesome, there we are, that's what we wanted. These mini parts are so incredibly useful when it comes to underslung engine power for these small crafts. Seriously, guys, I highly recommend that mod if you guys want it. It makes life much easier when you want to make smaller, lighter craft for things like attaching them to the space things. Anyway, I'm gonna grab that, and that is actually what I wanted it to do. I did actually want it to pop up like that. Now this thing is probably not balanced, so let's see, center of mass. No, it is not balanced. It's got a little bit of a pull this direction. That's not as bad as it could be. It definitely could be something else. The fortunate thing is I believe it is centered in this direction. Yes, it is perfectly centered here. So while we're in the atmosphere, at least, these flaps should be more than capable of making sure that the craft stays on a straight and narrow course. Alright, so what to do now? That is a good question. We need to get this thing into orbit, but we don't want to go messing with the symmetry on it at all. So what we will do is structural, one stack decoupler like so, because we do not want to leave anything on this crap. We don't want to modify this at all. We want this to stay as it is, even when we get it up there and all that fun crap and blah 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 blah. Now the first thing we're gonna do here is we're going to create basically a mobile SAS tank that can deorbit itself, because we want to be able to get rid of it later. But we're going to need the extra SAS fuel in order to get this thing to work. Now, as you can see, the center of mass here is a little bit... I should have taken these and drugged them down a little bit. Probably put them like right about here. In fact, I could probably still do that. Yank this off. Yank that off. Grab this. And do quad symmetry. And stick it right here. However, that would kind of screw up the other symmetries. We really don't want to screw that symmetry up. What I want to do is I want to get it lined up with these. So the bottom ones here, they're about a tank. So we want to put them right about there. Oh, oops. My symmetry buggered again. Here we go. 4. Why are you not... Oh, right. Can't put that on the front of that. That would be weird. That would be weird. To say the least, that would be weird. Okay, so I'm thinking the symmetry we had was basically as good as it's going to get. Yeah. Alright, so we'll go back to 2. We'll place them like so. Grab a couple more of these things. Control modules. Here we go. RCS thruster blocks, and put them out there. Yeah, like so. Okay, so that's just... that was completely and utterly pointless. Nothing but a waste of time. Oh, don't you just love it when I waste your time exponentially. Okay, so we want to get the Probodine OKTO here, or you know what? Do we? No, actually, I think I'm going to use this command pod. I am going to use the command... No, we want to use the command pod for something else. Right, okay, so we want to use the Probodine OKTO command module. And we're going to stick him right here. Now, if you remember, this thing has no SAS, no advanced SAS. So we're going to add that right here, right now. We're going to put a regular old SAS module here. An advanced SAS module here. Alrighty then, and now we're going to go over to the propulsion. We're going to grab RCS fuel tanks. We're going to add 1, 2, 3 RCS fuel tanks, and you can see how that weight is starting to come down a little bit. That's fine. we're going to be working with that essentially. Now I'm going to grab the roundified monopropellant tanks. We're going to put them right smack here in the middle, and we're going to go for maximum symmetry because we want lots and lots of monopropellant. And now we need some more RCS control, RCS thruster blocks. We're going to stick RCS thruster blocks quad symmetry here and here. Now this little thing right here is more than capable of docking and de-docking and hauling shit around and doing its own thing, but its purpose in existence is merely to assist the plane in its docking procedures. What's going to happen is I'm going to deactivate these thruster blocks here, but when we go in for the docking sequence, these ones can remain active because they're very close to the current center of gravity, so that's all well and good. Actually, I think I can adjust the center of gravity just a hair more and make it even closer to where we want it just by doing that. And yeah, so the distance from here to here and then from here to here is approximately the same. That's what I'm wanting to see. So this thing can deorbit itself just by using the many monopropellant tanks that it currently has on it. I'll put those down there, and just because I can, we'll do it again. And just because it looks neat, we're gonna do it like this. Hee hee hee. Well, let's just disable the symmetry here. I can move them around here a little bit like I like, because that looks neat. It really does. Okay, so distance from there to there, and then from there to there, it's about the same. I suppose technically I've dragged it a little bit far down. I've dragged it a lot far down, actually. How about if I just do that? Then what is it? I'm just using my fingers to measure here. Okay, that is like almost perfect right there. So we're just gonna have to leave it at that then. That's a little disturbing. I suppose I could do it like that. Looks a little bit weird and probably would screw with a lot of things. Alright, enough screwing around here, man. Get me snap to angles, stick it right in the middle. Alright, close. Go away. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is going to be our docking module. This will allow us to dock with the station without having to worry about running out of SAS fuel, because as you can see, it has very little. The purpose of this SAS fuel is merely to move the craft and get it to essentially where it's going. The idea is it'll be able to deorbit with this RCS fuel. Although now that I think about it, that is going to be an issue. It's going to need to be able to deorbit itself. Which means I may need to add a little something to it to enable me to do that. Yeah, that's exactly what I am all of a sudden thinking about here. Okay, so slight change of plans. You are being nuked. We're going to grab a Rockomax X200 fuel. No, not you. The T200 fuel tank. There we go. That's what we want. We're going to put that there. We're going to add one RCS fuel tank to that. We're going to add a docking port to the bottom. And you'll see the reason behind the docking port in a bit. We're also then going to use the propulsion. Here we go. The Rockomax 2477. Quad symmetry. 4 of them placed like... Nope. Placed like so. These have a surprising amount of thrust when it actually comes down to it. And then we're going to use the monopropellant tanks again. Maximum symmetry. Like so, and control modules, RCS thruster blocks, quad symmetry, like so. How's our distance here? Oh wait, I should probably get it so I'm looking at it relatively straight on. We're about there, we're about there. Okay, so that's really close. close enough that I think that it's actually going to be reasonably well, yes, reasonably well balanced. I think it will be reasonably well balanced, all things considered. That's actually proper staging as it currently stands. And I'm hoping that this will be enough fuel that once we are in a relatively low orbit, that this craft will be light enough for it to, well, deorbit. Because if I can get it into the atmosphere, that's really all that it'll take. The atmosphere will do everything from there. Alright, so we've got this, we've got that ready to go, and now we just have to get this whole unit up to the station. That's going to be fun. We are going to do a couple of other things while we're doing this. We're going to use a Mark 1-2 command pod here, and I'm not going to attach it directly to the bottom because I do need to get a Clampotron docking port on here first. We're going to attach it like that. Now you may be asking, why am I doing that? Why am I adding this thing? Simple. I'm going to fill it up with Kerbals and I'm going to send it up there because there's space for more Kerbals up there and I need to, you know, fill up the rest of my things. I'm not actually going to have any Kerbals in this thing. There's going to be a Kerbal flying this thing up there, obviously, because this is the primary control module. There's going to be somebody in there. But I want to fill up the space station a little bit here. So we're going to try to fill this thing up with a few Kerbals and get it up there for what's going on. And there's a few other things that I'm actually going to need to be doing here with this. I'm going to go back to fuel, and we're going to add a large RCS thruster bank. Good, good. And then we're going to need RCS thrusters, clearly. Where are they? My brain is not functioning properly. RCS thruster banks. I'm gonna put you on here and then you on here. Now when we actually get up near the, we're gonna try to avoid using the thruster banks as much as possible here, but if worse comes to worse, all should be good. Now there's one thing I forgot. I didn't add an advanced SAS and a regular old SAS module in here, so we want to do like so. Alright, good. And now, because of the way that this thing is actually, the secondary task this is going to be performing, we do need to grab some, not the strut gun. See, I still don't really understand what the strut gun is from. I think that it's still Quantum Struts. I mean, it uses the same model, so it stands to reason that it would be Quantum Struts. But I think that was actually a basic model that was just scrapped at some point. Alright, so we're gonna put you here, and I'm gonna increase your... No, that's crazy. That should be fine. Alright, and then we're going to just bring you guys and point you up, 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 farther. There? There? No. There. Okay, so we will point you like so. I'm not entirely sure where that's pointing, but I think that is actually pointing to what I want it to point to. Or at least relatively close. And now I'm going to actually put some regular struts on here. These things are basically to secure it to the secondary objective when I actually get it up to the secondary objective. You'll understand when we get there. And then we want these guys to connect to here because the wet noodle connection is going to be a wet noodle with the weight that we're putting on top of it. We really want to control it as best we can. And yes, I think that will do it. This should be sufficient SAS. The only thing we need to worry about now is deorbiting this thing when it's done. But I think it actually weighs its weight is actually low enough. I think its weight is actually low enough that it can just deorbit using the RCS thrusters. I suppose we're gonna find out. Alright, so we need some stack decouplers. Nice big stack decoupler like so. That's nice and pretty. Alright, and then now we have to actually get this thing up into space, and it needs to get to a pretty reasonable orbit, which makes me want to rethink this thing again. Yeah, of course it does. So we need the Rockomax, right, we need one of these. This is good. Now we want to put the Rockomax brand decoupler below you. And you're going to need a few things. Like some side mounted fuel. Not that many. You're going to need 4. Why are you being weird? 4 side mounted fuel tanks. Like so. You're going to need a little bit of fuel transfer like so. We will also add some space tape. Not much space tape, just a little bit like that. And then of course we now add atomic rocket motors, because I always add atomic rocket motors. That's why. Always. You're gonna be weird, aren't you? Alright. Fine, you little booger. I was trying to avoid adding decouplers because they tend to make the staging do funny things, but it's just not gonna cooperate. Alright, so we'll add 4 engine decouplers, and we'll put you up there-ish. And then come back over here, grab the fuel tanks, the nuclear motors, and the fuel ducts, which I can actually kind of finagle in here, I think. There we go, just like that. And now we really kind of do need the space tape, because without it, it's gonna be a little wobbly. More than a little, it'll be very wobbly. Alright, so that should stop the wobble and keep it nice and straight. Now hopefully this thing doesn't weigh too much. It's getting up there in weight already. Probably because I'm actually going to be intending it to perform 2 tasks. Technically 3, I suppose, depending on whether or not I actually get Kerbals into this thing. But getting the Kerbals there, that's going to be another task entirely. Yeah. Alright, back to the fueling stage, and now for some jumbo-ass fuel tanks. So we're going to put 2 Rockomax jumbo-ass fuel tanks on here, the mainsail liquid engine on the bottom. And now we're going to add radial decouplers. As you guys know how this works, the asparagus stack build. I'll hang on, I'm gonna deactivate the camera for this, just for a few seconds while I assemble the basics asparagus stack. Like I said, you guys know how it works. I'll be back when I do start doing something different. Okay, so welcome back with the power of editing. Isn't that awesome? So, what am I actually going to do? That's a reasonable question. I was watching Kerbal Space Program videos from other people, as I often do, and I saw a particular person do something rather interesting, and it was a very elegant solution. Scott Manley decided in his series that he was going to do a completely reusable space program, and he's performing it quite admirably. However, one thing that I did notice is that he has a rather elegant solution to providing more thrust to your systems with while providing practically no problems, especially when you're talking about thrust right off of the bat in the early stages. It's a completely self-contained unit, doesn't require any outside assistances or fuel. It adds weight that it compensates for just as it is. Now, adding it to the asparagus stock here creates some interesting challenges. First of all, I'm gonna have to make sure that my decouplers are placed a little bit differently on this side one, but overall it's still pretty good. So what we'll want to do is we will do a single Mark 1 fuselage here. That's it, just the one. Now I'm fairly certain that I can actually cram these in here right next to each other, just like so. If I get them lined up right, should be just fine. Now, I can only use these on a particular stage because I am going to want to get rid of them after a certain period of time. This stage, we'll get rid of this stage too quickly. And then this stage, by the time this stage starts running out, we'll also start running out of atmosphere. So whether or not it's run out of its fuel completely, we're going to want to get rid of them then as well. Now the idea is we want to use the basic jet engines here with these because we want to get as much fuel as possible at as low an altitude as possible, because these guys are gonna find themselves incapable of doing diddly squat as we start getting higher and higher and higher. Now it looks like it's not quite gonna cooperate here, but that's okay. Instead of 5 to each side, we can just do 4. That is still a viable solution. And if I can get them lined up properly, did I even have that lined up properly for them? I did, but it doesn't look like it's wanting to cooperate with these two. They're snapping to angles that are incoherent, essentially. So I'm gonna have to disable the snap to angles, and but then that causes you to do some funny things. So what are we doing? We can only do 3? Well, I guess we can only do 3 on this particular setup. That's disappointing. Oh, wait a minute. I can drag these over one more tick to the side and still be okay. Alright, hang on. I can still do this. So we can't do it right there, but we can do it right here. Alright, so grab you, bring you over to can, and then an alt click brings you over can't, can. Okay, is that lined up? Not quite, but the symmetry is there, so everything should be okay. Now we want to add our circular intakes here on the top to provide these guys with plenty of air. They are going to be getting quite a ways up there, so we are going to also wow, I'm failing to speak today. We are going to also add some radial air intakes to encourage even further increases in airflow to these things, so that hopefully they will not burn out or they won't start flaming out for as long as possible, because flameouts can cause really nasty rotations and turns and things like that. So now where are these guys all hiding? It looks like they're all hanging out up here in this stage. So we're going to want to drag them all down into this stage with these. Actually, no, wait, that's not right. What's this? This is the decouple for that stage? Okay, so we're just going to add a whole nother stage in here. No. We're going to add a stage here. We're going to put this thing in it. And then we're going to drag these guys down below so this becomes stage 9. Stage 9, right. Get all these decoupled. We want all these to decouple on stage 9. We want to kick these on first because it's going to take them a moment to get spun up to speed, and we want them to be at a good high amount of output before we begin anything fancy. Now, let's see. What are these? You are all of these guys, aren't you? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right. Okay, and that's the decouple for this. So that's kind of where, that is actually where we want those to be. They can decouple at the same time. Really, it kind of doesn't matter. The idea is to actually cut them off before we let them go. Or preferably, it would be to have them run out of fuel. But since I don't think that's going to happen, I am actually going to create an action group here, and custom 1, we're going to add a toggle engine for all of these so that I can toggle them all off when the time comes. So you're already in there, you're already in there, you're already in there. Okay, so that actually applied to the symmetry. Some of the symmetry was a little bit weird, so I wasn't sure if they were all going to work right. But there we go. Okay, that should be that. We're going to want to cut these engines off before we jettison them if we start getting high enough up that they are still burning. I don't know how long they're going to last on these fuel tanks, but I imagine it's not going to be a short period of time. They never do. They tend to last quite a while. I don't know if even their current positioning is where I want to put them. I may simply want to put them on these tanks. But I suppose we're just going to have to find that out in our next video. Definitely going to have to find out in the next video. So we're going to use those as a little bit of a lift and fuel assist. They are completely and totally unnecessary at this point. I really don't need these at all. This thing can probably get up into orbit and lift itself all the way there just as it is. But it's another step that can be done in order to get up there, and I feel like it's a good idea. Now, I was actually able to, I don't know if I ever showed you guys this, but I was able to land one of these things and successfully landed on the planet, and it survived using just 4 parachutes. These radial mounted parachutes, they're impact tolerance is 12, so they're not like super parachutes or anything, but just 4 of them was capable of performing the task. I did have to use the nuclear engines to slow down completely, but I think that if I add another 4, I should actually have enough parachutes on there that the dang thing can well, actually just land on the parachutes and land on the engines like that. It'd be kind of awesome. What's this decouple here? Okay, we don't want those to decouple. We want to put these in their own stage here above the nuclear engines because we don't want them going off before that. That should, alright, so that should provide proper staging when the time comes. Alright, so please join me next time where we're going to launch this beast and see if it actually works. We're also going to be experimenting with some new technology for the lifting of the things. Yes, I do like it. So this is no longer a Mun lander. This is now a lathe plane orbiter. Yeah, okay, because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get it into orbit and then attach to the space station using this thing. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's it. Save. Now I'm gonna exit here. I'm not gonna launch it because I did want to actually show you that I did actually land that thing. I'm not full of shit here. I was successful. Where is he? Lander transport probe. Yeah, here he is. And I literally could not have landed this guy any farther away from the station. Well, I suppose it's possible, but I'm really close to. You couldn't have gotten much farther away. But yeah, see, here he is. You remember this thing? I was using it for bringing up the a few control modules and stuff like that. And he's still got a little bit of fuel on. Still got a little bit of fuel, not much. I was running really low when I landed, but and I'll even kick the engines on here enough to lift off. But there, you see, I do actually have liftoff power here, and I was able to land this thing just kind of as it is on Kerbal. The parachutes were deployed, but it was a flawless landing. The parachutes make landings really easy. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Join me next time, and have a nice day.